Hello, my name's Jessica and this is my review of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Sorry if I'm saying that name incorrectly, I'm not too sure how to pronounce it. I'm going to start with a spoiler warning. I will be talking about the plot inside this book, so if you don't want a spoiler for this book, don't watch the video. Firstly, I'm going to start with a brief plot overview in case you don't plan on reading the book but still want to know what it's about. Basically, Addie, our main protagonist, made a deal with the god of darkness. There's no strict name for him, but I'm just going to call him the god of darkness because that's what makes sense to me. Anyway, they made a deal 300 years ago so that Addie wouldn't have to live a life that she didn't want to live. She was about to be forced into marriage when she ran away to the forest and ended up making a deal with him. The deal meant that she could live forever, she would never age, she could heal quickly, and she wouldn't really need to eat food. The catch was that when Addie was out of people's sight, they forget that she ever existed or whatever interaction they had had with her. This means that no one remembers her no matter how much she tries. Also, everything she tries to create, write, knock over, break, unbreaks, unwrites itself, so she leaves no imprint on the world. No one remembers her until she meets Henry, who also made a deal with the god of darkness. Henry's deal was made because he didn't feel that he was enough for anyone in his life. So his deal is where he's perfect for everyone. The catch was that he is everyone's version of perfect, so whatever they see when they look at him is their own version of perfect and not who he really is. And the eyes of the people he speaks to kind of gloss over. Addie sees him for who he really is, and the two kind of fall in love, get into a relationship, yada yada. That's kind of a brief plot overview without revealing too much about the ending. I will be talking about the ending later in the video, but not right now. Next, I'm going to talk about the bits that I didn't love in the book, purely because there isn't a lot that I didn't love in the book. The only thing I really didn't like was there was kind of a slow section between pages 300 and 400 where not a lot of plot was actually occurring. It was mostly just kind of arguments and disagreements between Henry and Addie that I feel didn't really add too much to the story. It actually got to the point where I had to force myself to read it because I hoped that the rest of the book wasn't just going to be them learning how to be in love, which it wasn't, which I'm very glad for because the ending would have been horribly boring otherwise. Next, I'm going to talk about the bits that I did love, which overwhelmingly outweigh the bits that I didn't love. I've written down on a piece of paper so I don't forget any of them, so if I'm looking down, I'm looking at my paper. I loved when Addie and Henry met for the second time and he says the classic, "I remember you." I thought that was really sweet, and their interactions from the first few times that they meet each other I thought were really sweet. One thing quickly, I don't know if it's Luke or Luck, because it's Luc, the name of the god of darkness. I don't know if it's, because it's short for Lucifer and stuff like that. I'm going to pronounce it Luke, okay? I love it when Luke reveals that he intended for Henry and Addie to meet and they didn't meet by accident in the first place. I love when Luke gives her back the ring that her father made her so that she can call upon Luke whenever she wants to. I love it when she confronts Luke on the balcony after she realises that their kind of love romance of summer was fake and it was all just a plot for him to make it so that she yielded quicker. I thought that was really interesting. I also loved it when Henry is about to die and Addie sacrifices her free will so that he can live. I thought that was a really special moment because now, while I'm disappointed Henry didn't die, I didn't hate Henry's character. I really liked Henry. I just preferred Luke more. I don't dislike Henry. I think he's a great character and he's very well written. I just prefer Luke because he's a morally grey villain. I don't know if that's just because I've been on book talk too much, but I prefer Luke to Henry. I really wanted Luke to have this kind of redemption arc and Addie ending up with Luke, which is what happens. But I do feel sorry for Henry because he's got to live out the rest of his days knowing that Addie made this massive sacrifice for him. But I'm not really that fussed about it. I didn't really expect them to end up together in the end anyway, because Addie is immortal and Henry only had a year to live, so it wasn't going to end well anyway. I love how clever Addie is and how clever Luke is and the way that they play off each other. I think their dynamic is really interesting, and whoever can hold out from calling upon the other for the longest, and this is this kind of game they've got. I think that's really fun. I like the idea that even though she knows the boundaries of her curse deal, and that she can't create things herself, I love the idea of other people drawing her, and especially when Henry ends up writing about her life at the end. I think that's really special, and if she didn't have that, I genuinely think she would have gone crazy a long time before this book takes place. I also like the idea that Luke appears different to everyone. We see this for the first time near the end of the book, I believe, when Addie sees him go confront an old woman about holding up her end of her deal, and she sees him in the reflection of the shop window or something, and he's a lot taller, very, very skinny, kind of bony arms and legs, and his face has a lot more harsh angles. I think that's really interesting because it means that everyone who makes a deal with him sees him differently. And he could change his appearance at any time, but he always appears to Adeline as her Luke. I also think it's funny that Addie always ends up being with someone who looks similar to Luke, because Luke was the man she drew when she was still human, and because Luke took that image, it kind of messed her up a bit. And I think also because Luke took that image, it meant that the two were going to end up together at the end anyway. I wasn't expecting the two to end up together when I first started reading the book, but the more I read in the book, the more I wanted it to happen. I liked Henry, but I don't think he was right for Addie. Also, somewhere in the book, Henry describes Addie as sunshine, and I think that this could be used to show symbolism, because if Addie represents sunshine, then I think there must be a yin-yang balance, and I think that Addie should be with Luke, the god of darkness, because their sunshine and darkness will balance each other out. I think they'll actually be pretty good in a relationship. Even if they hate each other at the time, I like to imagine that once the book is over, their game kind of finishes and that they actually end up being happy together. One last thing I want to mention in the bits that I loved is that I love how we kind of visit different artists throughout history, like Beethoven, and we see that in this universe they made deals with the god of darkness as well, Luke, and I think that's really funny because it kind of plays on the idea that if they hadn't made these deals, then would their work still be as popular as it is today in that universe? I know it's not real. Next, I'm going to talk about my kind of theories on the book, because I thought the book was really good. I really, really loved it in the end. I didn't love too much the middle section, as I've spoken about, but I think this is a really good book. And I think there are parallels, actually, to the Greek myth of Narcissus and Echo. And I'm going to talk about that for a bit now. To start, I think that Narcissus is represented by both Henry and Luke. I think he is represented in Henry because Henry doesn't think he is enough, and he doesn't think that he's perfect to anyone. That's why he makes the deal in the first place, because he wants to be perfect, like how everyone considers Narcissus perfect. I also think that Luke represents Narcissus because he doesn't understand why Addie doesn't want to be with him when he knows that his physical appearance is what Addie considers perfection, because she created his appearance when she drew him when she was younger. And so Luke knows that he is her ideal perfection, so he doesn't understand why Addie doesn't want to be with him. And that's similar to how Narcissus thinks of himself as perfection as well. Next, I'm going to talk about how Addie, I think, represents Echo. I think Addie is similar to Echo because Addie can't leave an imprint on this world herself. She has to like use other people to kind of leave her history behind. I think that's similar to how Echo can't like speak sentences herself. She can only repeat back what has been said to her. So Echo can't make her own imprint in her world because she doesn't have the capabilities. I think those two are pretty similar in that way. I also think Addie and Echo are similar because as Echo instantaneously falls in love with Narcissus, Addie falls in love with the idea of Luke, who is her perfect man that she imagines, until the god of darkness takes his like image and uses his image against her, kind of. My final point about this, I'm going to read it off because I don't trust myself to remember. The idea that she would always fall for people who look like Luke also leads into her obsession with her perfect man, aka her own personal version of Narcissus. That's kind of like my own little theory of what the book could be inspired by. I'm not sure if anyone else has made that relation before, and if they have, credits to them. My overall review of the book is that I loved it. I may consider reading it again in the future. I was definitely worried that I wasn't going to like the ending, but I did like the ending in the end. So I wouldn't say it's the best book I've read this year, but it's definitely up there. Thank you for watching.